The Chicago Bears offense put up a historic performance against the Cincinnati Bengals, but only because their defense and special teams were so bad that they needed it.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lauren Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. You can follow me on Twitter at CoxSports1, and you can follow the podcast at Locked On Bears on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and the Locked On Bears YouTube channel, where you can keep up with all of our video podcasts as well. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. On the show today, we'll recap the Bears' crazy win over the Cincinnati Bengals. Unlike any game we've seen in quite some time, an exciting finish, a nail-biter, and one that you can feel really good about your offense and maybe not so good about your special teams and maybe even worse about your defense. And we'll look at all three phases from this game, including breakout performance by Kyle Monangai and Colston Loveland, some trick plays from Ben Johnson, some struggles in the secondary from the Bears defense, some struggles in the kicking game from Cairo Santos and kickoff coverage and onside kicks, and boy, a lot happened in this game. Real quick, before we get started, just want to give you a quick scheduling or programming note as the week goes on here. I'm going to be out of the country later this week, starting really Wednesday, and so we're going to have Joe George from the Bears Squad Show, our post-game host and midweek Bears Squad Show host. He's going to fill in the regularly scheduled episodes of Locked On Bears. So you're still going to get Locked On Bears 5 days a week this week and next week, but you're going to get a few episodes in there of Joe hosting it instead of me, but I will be back for next Wednesday. I'm basically going to miss like Wednesday to Wednesday podcast here on the Locked On Bears channel. So don't miss me too much. I'll be back. Don't worry, but Joe's going to do a great job. He'll take good care of you, and we'll still get all your Bears coverage in and out of this upcoming game against the New York Giants. But first, we go back over the Bengals game in what was a brilliant offensive performance. And I think it's important that we start there. You know, it's the most yards the Bears have had in a game since the 1980s. Surprised to see like more yards than they had ever even like under Mark Trestman with Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey, Martellus Bennett, Jay Cutler, Matt Forte. Never had this many yards of offense in a game, 576. And obviously 47 points is not something we see all the time. And it's easy enough to say, oh, well, this is a bad Bengals defense, literally worst defense in the NFL. But even this bad, horrible Cincinnati Bengals defense was still only giving up about 31 or 32 points per game. The Bears scored 47, so that's like 15 more points than they've been giving up to most opponents. No one, I guess, except the Minnesota Vikings this season, has scored that many points on this Bengals defense. We saw the Lions and their great offense didn't put up this many points on the Bengals. The Packers didn't put up this many points on the Bengals. The Steelers, the Broncos, the Jaguars, like teams that have had some success this season, haven't put up this many points on the Cincinnati Bengals. So it definitely does still mean a lot that the Bears were able to do so, especially without DeAndre Swift in this game. Cole Kmet leaves this game with an injury as well. The receivers were banged up coming into this game, maybe not playing at 100%. But we got to talk about Kyle Monangai and how great of a performance he had against Cincinnati. A real breakout showing for him, 176 yards on 26 carries, just under 7 yards per carry. And it wasn't like, oh, he ripped off the 60-yard run that inflated his totals, but like every time he was touching the ball, it felt like he was getting 6, 7, 8 yards, like just chunk after chunk after chunk. You look at his carry chart from the Next Gen Stats, and you can kind of see it's not just like they're slamming it up the middle over and over again and they're breaking free. Like he took runs to the outside off the edges and had runs of 5+ yards. His longest runs of the game actually came on runs that were to the outside, including a couple of toss plays out of shotgun, but they could still line it up under center on 3rd or 4th and short and hand it to him and punch it through for a big gain. I mean, obviously a really strong game from Kyle Monangai. I do tend to think that some of that, or maybe more of that, is bad Bengals defense than some like Herculean individual effort from Monangai. I was glad to see Ben Johnson gives him 26 carries and trusts him with 26 carries in the game, and he absolutely took full advantage of every opportunity he was given. But we have seen the Bengals give up that many rushing yards to a lot of running backs. I mean, last week, Breece Hall was over 7 yards a carry. 2 weeks ago, Jaylen Warren was over 7 yards a carry. And I think it says a lot that someone like Britton Brown comes off the Bears practice squad, makes his NFL regular season debut, like his first ever NFL carries. Because I think he had played some special teams for the Raiders when they drafted him, but never played. His first offensive carries in his NFL career come in this game. And he's over 7 yards per carry and has a 22-yard touchdown run. Like, I do feel to some extent, like if Britton Brown can rip off a 22-yard touchdown run and average 7.5 yards per carry against this defense, that maybe almost anyone could average a decent number of yards against this team. I'm not saying anybody could get 175 yards like Kyle Monangai did, but it does detract a little bit from a game that I thought, again, he ran well. You still have to take the space that they give you and do something with it. And there were so many plays when he runs through the contact and gets 3 or 4 extra yards that your average running back isn't going to get. A lot to like from Monangai there, for sure, but perhaps inflated slightly by this Bengals defense. Like, this is the kind of game where you could look at it on paper and say, oh, Monangai should be the new starter over DeAndre Swift. And it's like, no. I think Swift would have had 200 yards against this Bengals offense too. Like, it's okay to celebrate a great game by Monangai and not get carried away with it meaning a whole lot more than just a good game against a bad defense. I think the same thing is true for Colston Loveland to some extent, right? Has 118 yards and 2 catches and 2 touchdowns on 6 catches. And that final touchdown play, man amongst boys, bouncing off the tackle. Even his first touchdown took a big hit at the end, but bounced right off it. Like, there is a strength that Colston Loveland has that is valuable, and you saw exactly why they drafted him 10th overall. But we shouldn't expect Colston Loveland to now have 6 catches for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns every week. Like, some of this was a not-so-good Bengals defense and leaving a lot of space in the middle of the field that Loveland still had to get open, still had to make the catch, still had to make plays after the catch. Caleb Williams still has to hit him, but right, we shouldn't expect 47 points every week either, right? It's okay to celebrate it and not get too carried away with it as well. And same, we got to give a lot of credit to Ben Johnson in this game. Called a great one, stayed with the running game in Kyle Monangai, and then dug into his bag for some trick plays, like not just a flea flicker, but like wide receiver DJ Moore throwing to quarterback Caleb Williams for a touchdown. Tyson Bagent catching a double pass and throwing back to Caleb Williams. I mean, this was really going all out. And I was surprised Ben Johnson did so against the 32nd ranked defense in the NFL. Like, they all worked. And I don't want to overlook that is not automatic, that trick plays don't always work. And that Ben Johnson said from the get-go that it takes a while for him to trust the offense enough to go to trick plays. Like, they have to do all the basic stuff right before he'll let them do trick plays. So the fact that he's doing trick plays is a good sign of offensive progress. But also, like, don't you want to save those for like a team that's not so horrible like the Bengals? Like, yeah, I realize you needed 47 points. You needed every one of those points in this game. But like, you could have just kept running your regular offense. And I think the Bengals weren't going to stop you. They weren't stopping your running game at all. And the passing game certainly got going without the trick plays in there. So I was surprised he went to them, but certainly not complaining that he went to them. Absolutely fun to watch and exciting to see this Bears offense operate at such a high level. The quality of defenses are going to get better moving forward, but so will maybe some of the quality of offenses as well. Like the receivers, maybe not, but they'll have more than just Flacco thrown to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. This Bears defense absolutely needs to be better and was particularly bad in this game, almost costing them what should have been a much, much easier win. So we'll take a closer look at some of these defensive struggles and what was going wrong against Flacco and company next on Locked On Bears.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go, while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
The Locked On Bears podcast is also brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. And their part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Join their free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use our promo code SHNFL for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com, promo code SHNFL5. Supply House. Real people, real service. This Bears defense really struggled, and maybe even more so than we thought they would, because we knew coming into the game, hey, Bengals do score a lot of points. They have really good receivers. You have injuries in the secondary and some cornerbacks who have struggled. But we kind of thought, at least with Tyreek Stevenson returning and having played well in some recent games, and you add C.J. Gardner-Johnson in the slot, that should be an upgrade. Really, you went into this game thinking Deshaun Wright might be your one weakness, your one major weakness, I should say, and that can you survive with that on your back end? And I was disappointed on multiple fronts in that regard. I mean, first of all, C.J. Gardner-Johnson in his first game back maybe didn't quite have full game, not durability, but endurance. That's the word I was looking for. Full game endurance. It seemed like he was a little gassed, and they ended up kind of rotating him out a bit in the second half as the game was going on. Not because he wasn't playing well. I thought he generally played pretty darn well, actually. It was significantly upgrading Nick McLeod. Not as good as Kyler Gordon, but better than Nick McLeod. That's what you were looking for there. But they had to play Nick McLeod a lot in this game still, in part because C.J. Gardner-Johnson maybe wasn't up to full in-game shape there. But then also, it seemed like Tyreek Stevenson was banged up and kind of in and out of this game. Neither one of them ended up playing a full slate of snaps. Of course, Deshaun Wright plays every snap on defense. All 68 snaps Deshaun Wright's on the field for, but it's Stevenson's the one who's in and out of the game, and then C.J. Gardner-Johnson's in and out of the game. So we're seeing plenty of Nick McLeod, and that's not what really any of us were hoping to see in this game. I mean, I think we could all expect that, hey, Jamar Chase is probably going to have a handful of catches and probably break 100 yards. T. Higgins probably going to have a handful of catches and break 100 yards. But it wasn't supposed to be that easy for Joe Flacco. And that's where the real concern was for me. I'm less worried about the 6 catches, 111 yards for Jamar Chase and the 7 catches, 121 yards and 2 touchdowns for T. Higgins. Like, that I can kind of expect and tip your cap to your opponent having 2 really good receivers. But what concerns me is pretty much everything else. I mean, to their credit, they shut down Chase Brown in the running game, under 4 yards per carry. Run defense continues to no longer be an issue for the Bears that they just somehow really quickly solved at the bye week and haven't looked back. That's great to see. But I get concerned when Chase Brown has 8 catches for 75 yards. And I can never pronounce the other receiver's name. Ishivas, who has 5 catches for 66 yards and a score. Some guy named Hudson has 2 catches for 42 yards, including a 33-yarder downfield. And Tinsley has a 27-yard catch. And Noah Fant has a 23-yard catch. Like, all 7 of the Bengals receivers who caught passes had plays of 20 or more yards. Yeah, Chase and Higgins had a bunch of big plays in there too, but you can survive those. You can't survive everyone else beating you. And that's what the bigger concern was. It almost, I'm not going to say it didn't, but it almost didn't matter who the receiver was in a lot of those situations when your no-name Bengals wide receivers numbers 3 and 4 and 5 even. Like think about like Chase and Higgins are 1 and 2. Ashivas is number 3, and then Hudson and Tinsley are 4 and 5. Their number 4 and 5 receivers are having 27-yard completion and a 33-yard completion. Like that would be like the Chicago Bears getting a 30-yard pass to Ja'Day Walker and a 25-yard pass to Devin Duvernay. Like, not saying it never would happen, but not both in the same game. You know what I mean? Like that's how bad the coverage had to be on the back end. And a part of that was Joe Flacco having all day in the pocket with very minimal pass rush from the Chicago Bears. Like, yes, they sacked him a couple times, but that's because when pressure does get there, he can't do anything about it because he's old and slow. But like you look at Joe Flacco's passing chart, he could sit in the pocket and kind of slice and dice you. And in a lot of the game, he's just throwing the quick checkdowns underneath, but those quick checkdowns were 5-6 yards a chunk. And then eventually those are opening up and he's killing you in the 10 to 20 yard range there. Like he took a few deep shots and hit a couple of them, but really it was like those intermediate chunk plays where they had Jamar Chase working over the middle of the field in some of those man coverage situations, or Chase Brown out of the backfield working over the middle of the field. Like they hit the outsides a bit here and there, and they certainly targeted Stevenson and Nashawn Wright as well, but it seemed like quite a bit, I should say. But it seemed like some of the bigger chunks were when the Bears would go into that man coverage and they just break free over the middle of the field. Because like with Higgins and Chase, there were some plays where it's just like great receiver makes a great catch on a great throw. Like I think about both of the Higgins touchdowns, really. One down the left sideline where he makes a great adjustment on the ball and Nashawn Wright's pretty much right there in coverage, but then Higgins works across inside of him, Wright falls down as Higgins makes the catch and goes in for the end zone. Like, I'm not here to say Nashawn Wright had great coverage throughout the whole play, but it wasn't like Higgins was wide open. It was kind of at the last second that everything fell apart there. And then the other Higgins touchdown was in the red zone, breaking to the outside on the right side of the formation. He was against CJ Gardner-Johnson, and it's like full extension, reaches out in front, for the ball, and CJ Gardner-Johnson is right there with a hand in between his hands, but like perfect pass, perfect catch, beats good coverage, and it's like, well, tip your cap to him. And like, if that was all the Bengals could do in the passing game, it'd be great. But like, Higgins and Chase had 232 yards. Joe Flacco threw for 470. So my quick math tells me that's 238 yards that went to receivers not named Higgins and Chase. It's those 238 yards and 2 touchdowns that I was more concerned about than the 232 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like that's what this game comes down to for me with the concern. And if not for a diving interception by Tremaine Edmonds that probably should have counted as a pick six, but still counted as an interception, and a really impressive strip sack by Austin Booker. That wasn't like he was unblocked off the edge, but does that stab move that we saw him have a lot of success with in the preseason, gets under Orlando Brown's pads, throws him aside, gets the quarterback, knocks the ball out, or the ball comes out on the way to the ground. Either way, great play by Austin Booker. Welcome back, Austin Booker there. If not for those 2 touchdowns, or those 2 turnovers, the Bears absolutely lose this game. And probably still should have lost this game, even with those turnovers, because of the abysmal moments on special teams. It's to the point now where this is a real problem, and it's hard not to point all of the fingers, or most of the fingers, I guess, at special teams coordinator Richard Hightower. And I'm always cautious to just blame coaching instantly whenever the team is playing poorly, but I think special teams, and this special team situation in particular, definitely starts there, and the majority of the blame goes there. So we'll take a look at these special teams issues and how the widespread nature is really the biggest smoking gun here next on Locked On Bears. The Locked On Bears podcast is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. We're all enjoying the NFL season right now, but hey, the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Because even if you missed the start of a game, or you just want to ride the hot hand once the game gets rolling, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting from the first quarter to the fourth, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers, a $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So this Bears special teams, I think, is only slightly less of a concern than the defense, but it's a pretty low bar there. Like the defense gave up over 40 points. Like you can't get much worse than that. And like the special teams at least had some redeeming qualities here and there. But it's also something that, like, expectation wise, we knew the Bears defense would probably have some struggles in this game. We knew the Bengals would probably score a lot of points. We did not think the special teams would be such a big factor in allowing it. First seconds of the game, opening kickoff return for a touchdown. We know that the Bears special teams coverage units have been an issue. They've given up a lot of free hidden yards in those kickoff coverages in particular, but not yet a touchdown until now, especially in the opening one of the game. And it's just like, all right, all of a sudden you're starting the game from behind. Great. You're gifting Joe Flacco and the Bengals an early lead and some free 7 points there. Like, okay, not the end of the world. You can overcome it. And the Bears did, right? They were still in control and or at least going blow for much of that game. You know, you get to halftime. Technically, you're trailing by 3 there, but you know, you were leading in the second quarter and kind of, you know, the 7 points at the beginning didn't doom you in there. But then you add in a missed field goal by Cairo Santos that gets called back by a penalty and ends in a touchdown, but you still, okay, something bad is happening, special teams here. Then you get the other missed field goal that may have gotten a finger on it and blocked a little bit, but it's kind of hard to tell exactly how much of, I mean, it certainly was a factor, I suppose, but like, you know, still like Santos sending them a little bit on the flatter side. It wasn't like a clean break in protection that led to some easy wide open block. It was like, man, this kicker's having trouble getting enough on this and getting enough height under it to get this over the blocking up front from a kick standpoint. And then you have the onside kick that touches Daniel Hardy's leg. And all of a sudden, you got like multiple phases of special teams issues. It would be a different conversation if this was just a Cairo Santos issue. Your kicker missed a couple kicks. Let's get Jake Moody in there and see what he can do. Like I'm pretty well at up to that point now, and I've been intentionally hesitant to have I've given Cairo Santos a decently long leash because everyone likes to complain about like, well, he can't hit a kick from 55 plus yards, and that's totally valid and totally real and totally accurate. And my whole thing with Cairo Santos up until this point has been, listen, yes, he can't get you the long ones, but he had been, past tense, automatic on everything 45 and under. Like, right, we just kind of had grown to accept that, hey, if you get held for a field goal anywhere closer than 50 yards, he's got it. You're good to go. Don't have to think twice about it. Santos is just going to hit it. Just automatic on the short kicks. And I would rather have the kicker who's automatic on the short kicks and can't hit the deep ones than have a kicker who can hit some deep ones but is going to miss some short ones. And I thought, like, as long as Santos remains automatic on the short ones, I'm rolling with him even without the big booming leg because I'll just take the automatic 3 points. That's still very valuable, and you can do a lot worse than that. Now that he's missing the easy kicks, that's when you got to make a change. Like the one redeeming thing that you held on to him for was like automatic points is no longer automatic. Well, if he's not automatic underneath anyway, then you might as well take somebody who's got a stronger leg who's not going to be automatic because at least he can have a higher ceiling there. And so I would imagine we're going to see more Jake Moody moving forward here, even though Moody has had some really bad kicks with the 49ers as well. Like he's worked out for the Bears so far, but let's not pretend like this is some perfect solution that's going to solve all their Cairo Santos problems either. Like that's a whole thing that they're going to have to figure out. But the reason why I come back to special teams coordinator Richard Hightower really feeling like he falls on the sword here is because A, it's multiple units, field goal, kickoff coverage, and onside kick return. But then B, a lot of the guys that are on the kickoff coverage team that's not covering very well, or on the onside kick return team, or on the field goal block team are guys who Richard Hightower has picked and vouched for. Like, these are his guys. It's not like, oh, there's a bunch of turnover on the bottom of the Bears roster that has a whole new looking special teams. Like, if you think about a lot of the core special teams players, it's guys that have been around and been a part of Hightower, like have been getting coached by this special teams coordinator since Matt Eberflus was hired. You know, it's guys like Josh Blackwell, although he left this game with an injury with, I think, was a concussion, but still, like, core special teams player. Your backup safeties, Elijah Hicks and Jonathan Owens, have been around a few seasons. Backup linebackers, Noah Sewell, even Carl Jones Jr. has been here for 2 seasons. They re-signed Daniel Hardy at defensive end to be like special teams ace edge rusher who's on this roster, not for his pass rush, but for his special teams ability. And whose foot does it hit on the onside kick but Daniel Hardy? Even Travis Homer at running back. Like, they handpicked Devin Duvernay for Richard Hightower. And, you know, he does have a nice return that's called back by a penalty by the receiver that Richard Hightower wanted to keep, Ja'Day Walker, on this 53, less because Walker's so great on offense, but because they saw him as a valuable part of special teams. Like, these are mostly Richard Hightower's guys, and his guys aren't getting the job done. Evidently they're not coaching the kickoff coverage properly because they're giving up these big returns. And I get that, like, the kickoff rules have all changed and everybody's adapting and trying to figure it out, but, like, other teams are figuring it out. And it felt like last year the Bears largely had it mostly figured out. Not perfect by any means, maybe not even elite by any means, but good enough kickoff and punt coverage last season. Now, give credit to Torrey Taylor, who had an absolute bomb in this game. Wasn't it like 70-something yards? It was all said and done and pinned him back. But, like, this is another game where the Bears defense forces one punt by the Bengals offense. Every other drive ends in points or turnovers. Same thing happened in the win over the Raiders. Same thing happened in the win over the Commanders. Weird game, weird team. I'm really looking forward to getting back into the All-22 film to break it down. I know we didn't really talk much about Caleb Williams today, right? I think he played well. Certainly the stat line reflects that. I want to go back through and rewatch. Took care of the football for sure, but felt like he left the pocket even when the pressure wasn't quite there yet. Left some clean pockets in this game, so I want to rewatch the pocket presence. And there were a couple throws here and there that were inaccurate and behind receivers or whatever, but generally had a good game, good progress in that game. But we'll break that down in some more depth on tomorrow's podcast for sure. So make sure, and we also got to talk trade deadline. Apparently, Jay Glazer says the Bears are going to be aggressive. We'll see if that happens between now and tomorrow's podcast, but you can be sure whatever happens, we'll break it down for you right here on the Locked On Bears podcast. So make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, because that's going to be the best way to keep up with all of our daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you're looking for a second listen today, be sure to check out Locked On NFL for breakdowns of all of the biggest storylines from Sunday's action, preview of Monday Night Football, and so much more. Comes out twice a day, once in the morning with Tyler Rowland, and then a second episode in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins in the barbershop. Lots of great football talk on Locked On NFL. Make sure you're coming back tomorrow. Make Locked On Bears your first listen once again for another opportunity to bear down.